Hey there, this is Zachary,
And I'm Jay.
the hosts of Fear and There.
Thanks so much for listening to the following podcast on Public House Media.
Hi everyone, welcome back to another week and another episode of the Food for Thought podcast. I am your host, Kylie Thompson. Thanks so much for joining me. So this week I have Susan Fochs' second episode of our little two-part series, and this week we are talking all about dating and relationships and body image. So this episode is a little bit more of a testimonial on her part, which I'm really excited for, but I'm also excited to, in a couple of weeks, dive into more advice on how you can be dating and learning to love yourself at the same time, because I think that is something that's not talked about a lot in today's society, especially in regards to eating and eating disorder recovery and body image. So I'm really excited to get into that one day very soon. But for now, this interview with Susan is awesome. She gives you guys a lot of really great insight, and I don't know, let's just get right into it. I don't have much to say about it other than she is awesome. And as you guys know from last week, she does a lot of amazing things with her own nonprofit, her own podcast, and I will link all of that in the episode bio for this week like I did last week. So without further ado, let's give Susan Fochs a listen.
As of like 2020, so 2020 was also like therapy, was also, we learned how to meditate, we learned all these things. In 2020, actually, even with the pandemic, like I finally figured out how to live my best, most like single, wonderful, independent woman life.
So thank for that.
For the last 2 years, which is pretty much the whole time I've been living in Madison, I have been unintentionally casually dating.
Okay.
Because it's like you go on a date and you like hope it turns into something, and then it doesn't. And you're like, okay, I'm just gonna pack up my suitcase and go to the next one.
Right.
So I was like unintentionally a casual dater, but you have to be, because it's not like, you know, the first guy you meet off a dating app, you're like, and now you're mine forever. But yeah, no, I was really deep on dating apps for a long time. And I'm like the worst person on dating apps, because I would get really fed up and really burnt out and then delete them all. And then in like 2 weeks, I'll be like, oh, okay, now I'm bored.
Back. Uh-huh.
We'll do it again. Yeah, no, I was deep on them for a long time. And, you know, I can't shit on dating apps that much, because like I've met some really great people, like people I'm still friends with today.
Yeah.
But like in general, it's so exhausting. It's so trying.
I've done very little on dating apps. I had a Tinder for like 20 seconds. I like to do this thing where I play on my friend's phone and I swipe for them. Like, it's fun for me. I just like to play Tinder, but I don't ever, even when I had it for myself, I think I met up with one person off of Tinder one time and we knew each other in high school. So it was like,
oh, wow,
not weird.
Yeah.
And I guess like, I just want to know about how body image fits into all of this. Like everything from when you're creating a dating profile, like the pictures that you pick, and just go through your process with me, because I don't know anything about this.
Oh my God, it's so hard. So I had Hinge and a Bumble, and for a little while I had something called The League, which is like the most pretentious dating app alive. And yeah, anyway.
So Bumble's the one where girls talk first.
It's a swiping app.
Okay. Hinge I did have. I loved Hinge. I remember Malia Salermo got me on Hinge. And then the League? So The League is so weird. I'm glad I deleted it. It hooks you up with so you have to hook it to your Facebook and your LinkedIn profile. And then there's an application process that literally judges you on your professional career. And so so when I first downloaded it, it was something like I was like number 8,000 on the wait list for like the Madison, Chicago area. And I got bumped, and I got this stupidest email. It was like, you've been drafted into the league after like a day. Cause it told me it was going to take like 3 weeks to like get through like my application, do whatever. Oh
so I was like, okay, cool. I was like, what a nice break. You take your 3 weeks, you know, look at me. And within a day I got drafted into it, which was only because they favor high educations and high titles. And on LinkedIn, that is that I have my master's at Northwestern, that I'm CEO of Operation Not Alone.
Oh.
I completely think I forgot to say that in my first intro, by the way. Wow, I suck at this.
I will
my own organization called Operation.
Yes. I was going to touch on that in like my intro. Don't worry.
Oh, sorry.
I'll hype you up, Queen. Don't worry. I can't forget.
So yeah, so like they grabbed those buzzwords out of my profile and it's like, oh great, we're gonna shove you to the front. And so you only get to see 5 profiles a day, but it's of other people of this like high education, high titles, high whatever. And you only see 5 people a day. You say yes or no because you see such a limited amount of people. And like in the Madison area, I'm sure if you were somewhere like a more metropolitan area, you might have more options.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just was never really fruitful. But anyway, yeah, no, I was very careful about, here was the stupid part. I was very careful about pictures, and also about like my responses, because I was always so worried in the background. It was like, if I ever made a joke about like food or like where we should go for brunch or whatever, it'd be like, oh, of course a fat kid's going to talk about like brunch or like French fries or like something. But I wanted to be cute and like be funny and make a joke. But then I was always so nervous about that. Number 2, like I said, I don't know how this happened. I kept getting a lot of guys that were like personal trainers that kept like reaching out to me. And I was like, why? I was like, I don't think that we're going to have fun together. I don't think we're going to, I'm not getting up at 5 a.m. with you. Like,
no.
And no, honestly, there were a lot of guys that like even had interest in me that I went away from out of my own insecurities. Like, I remember, this sounds so dumb and you're going to judge me for this so hard. Sometimes I get really insecure about my teeth. Because
gorgeous teeth.
Oh, well, thank you. But I've got like, I don't know. They get really like, even though I floss, they get really plaquey. I have this one yellow spot on my front tooth that I can't get to go away for the life of me. And there were a couple guys that were like dentists or like in dental school. And I was like, well, you're going to judge my teeth every time you look at me. So I don't want to talk anymore. Like dumb things like that.
Yeah.
And, and if any guy had like so many like, gym profiles or gym selfies, or if they had like super shredded 6-packs on there, I would actively avoid them because I always just associate with like, oh, you're going to judge me for what I look like because you judge yourself so hard for what you look like. You know what I mean?
Right.
And especially any guy that's like, if I'm not at work, you can find me at the gym.
Oh God.
Or meal prepping or whatever. I was like, we are not going to get along.
No.
But also because I was like, because number 1, it's like, can you ever chill? Like, are we ever going to be able to like be comfy on like a Sunday morning and have some brunch and just like relax? Like, will that ever be a thing? Or are you always going to be like, no, it's not checking on broccoli. I'm not gonna, you know what I mean? Like, yes. Can you ever relax with me? So I would always like really shy away from those people just because I always felt judged. And I even went on dates with guys like that where it was something like we would order a drink and I would order a glass of white wine. And I remember this guy, he ordered like a gin and like salsa or something. And I got the glass of wine. He's like, that's a lot of sugar in wine. I was like, shut up. like,
do you want me to get drunk and have fun with you? Or like, what do you want me to be worried about my sugar intake?
Right. And then also I was like, I guess we're not going to order food because I'm not opening up that Pandora's box. You know what I mean? I was like, we're not going to share an app because if you're already judging the fact that I ordered a glass of white wine and you like literally had to comment on the sugar intake of it, I was like, okay, so now we're not eating food and I want to leave. The other one, this always made me feel really uncomfortable. There was a guy I dated for a hot minute, and I really mean like a minute. He, it was super funny. I think I was actually telling you about him at that same bowling event.
Okay.
Because this man, he literally told me, we had like our first date. Our first date was very impromptu. I normally never agree to a first date with someone like the same day, a couple minutes, like talking with them.
Yeah.
But the long story was I was on my way to a different first date and I got such a bad gut feeling heading to this different first date with this guy that I physically ran away from the bar because my gut was just like, no, like we are uncomfortable. So I left and I was texting this other guy and he was like, well, you're already out. He's like, you're already dressed up. You're already out. He's like, just come to like this bar and hang out with me. I'm going to be like way cooler than this guy. And I was like, I have a better intuition about you. So I was like, fine.
I love that. Love that guy for saying that.
And so I went out with him and he was a nice person, but he was also very insecure in himself. And so he was very complimentary of me. like almost like overly complimentary of like me and what I looked like, to the point where, so we had this first date and then we were going to meet up the next night for our second date. And in the meantime, he told me he was there with his whole family and he was like in his 30s and he was the youngest. It was crazy. They all had family time in the living room where they all, on like a projector, pulled up my Instagram and went through it as a family. And he's telling me this. They also Googled me to death. And literally, because then he started asking me all these things. And I was like, it's totally understandable that you did that by yourself. Of course, I'm going to Google you.
Yeah.
You know, and do whatever. Just make sure you're not a serial killer. And I'm not
I CCAP everyone I go on a date with.
Absolutely everyone. You know, like, I'm just like, I want to make sure that I don't end this date in the trunk of your car. Okay. Like, that's not how we're trying to do. And I was like, totally fine that you did that by yourself. And I was like, why was that family time? Why would you do that with your whole family? But then, and I was immediately upset because he was like, by the way, he's like, I got to ask you a question. He's like, your Instagram. He's like, so many rows down. He's like, the white bikini picture. Let's discuss. And I was like, let's not discuss, because I don't look like that anymore. And if that's now the like view of what you have of me leading into this, you're going to be super disappointed. I'm going to be really insecure. I was like, don't do that. I was like, that was an old picture. It was very clear that that was an old picture. I think I even wrote that in the comment about eating disorders. I was like, you didn't read the comment. You just looked at this white bikini picture. And he was like, and I was like, no, let's not. I was like, you're going to be real disappointed when you see me in person. Because that's not, I was like, so, you know, it just like, it made me so uncomfortable that he did. And then also to like tell me that you did that with your entire family.
That's just weird.
So weird. And it just, yeah. So like, it's been really hard. And also because I constantly get nervous when I'm on like these dates. And if things ever get like serious with a guy, because in the back of my head, oh, here's the thing too. This has never happened. But in the back of my head, I'm always like, but is he going to tell me that I look disgusting? Like, you know, in a sexual way that my ex-boyfriend used to do to me.
That was
and it's
a beautiful transition, by the way. That leads right into my next question. So
perfect. Because it's hard, because it's not an irrational fear, because it has happened. But I also have to talk myself down logically and be like, you've dated like dozens of other guys and no one's ever insulted you to your face the way that guy did. So it's like, you know, if we're going to look at statistics, that was one out of like, I don't know how many, but then also taken every other girl I know who's gone on all these dates, and these guys don't insult you right off the bat with that look. It's like, okay, so this is like 1% of people in your life, even though it's a real fear, you know, logically that hasn't happened since then. But in the back of my mind, like that trauma is still there to be like, is he going to just sit there and judge me? Like if I ever take my clothes off in front of another human being, are they going to be like, oh, this is actually gross. Didn't know you look like that under that dress. You were wearing Spanx. It was tomfoolery. I'm gone now. Like goodbye. Like tomfoolery. You know what I mean?
Yes.
This is the anxiety that I always have in the back of my mind with dating. And it's one of the reasons why I really haven't done any dating in 2020, because I was like, we are going to love ourselves. This sounds so cliche and so dumb, but this was really it. I was like, we're going to love ourselves before we put ourselves back out there in this fear. And then the pandemic happened and you can't really meet new people anyway. So
exactly. Everyone has to love themselves in 2020 because we don't have any time to do anything else or what's our excuse? You were sitting in your house for 6 months. You could have worked on it.
You could have worked on your mental health. Yeah.
Yes. But my next question was actually about like that past relationship with that ex is like, and you can give me as much detail about that relationship as you want. I know we talked about it in the first hour, but how did that relationship affect you like post breakup? I mean, like outside of how you felt about like your body but like how did it affect you in dating specifically?
I am actively upset with myself for the fact that it still does affect me, because it was so traumatic, and to the point where there's so many things also I learned that I'm a beautiful suppressor. Like there are so many things that I convinced myself, and this is the whole reason we went to therapy this year, right? Because there's so many things I convinced myself I was fine about because I wasn't actively thinking about them. So I was like, well, if I'm not thinking about it, it means I'm fine. It means it's over. Which is not true. And that's not how trauma works, you know? And so the hard part, and what was really happening the last, again, like year and a half when I was starting to date casually and Because these last 2 years were the first. So I had 2 relationships, like serious relationships after that guy that both lasted right about a year. And the trauma that I endured from him were super present in both of those relationships. So this is the first time I've been like casually dating that hasn't turned into a relationship. And so, but I was getting mad at myself because I was like, why are we still dealing with this? Like, why are these thought processes still here? Why is the sabotage here? Because the hard part about casual dating and dating apps too, when they're not turning into relationships, was I was the queen of coming home from a date. And like, maybe I got ghosted by the guy. Maybe I didn't even like the guy and I didn't want to talk to him again.
Mm-hmm.
But if we weren't talking anymore, it wasn't going anywhere. I would just be like a crying, spiraling mess of why am I still not good enough for any of these other people? Like, why am I not good enough for any of these guys? And that has been the dialogue in my own head, like ever since that happened, because he made me feel so just about who I was as a person. I'm still doing, and which is, again, this is why we went to therapy, because I was like, you have to break this cycle in your own head at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, we're always going to feel this way. And the other thing too that really I was very much forced with was there were 2 times in the last year that I saw him and I was face to face with him.
Mm-hmm.
Once I knew about, one was a surprise. Like I physically ran into him on the street. Like I mean, physically like bumped in.
Oh my God.
And the trauma response that my body had to endure for the next like 48 hours was unreal. For the rest of the day, I'm not kidding. Like I had thrown up at some point. My stomach I was so sick to my stomach the whole rest of the day after seeing him. Like I'm not kidding. I came home and I had thrown up. I went into like, for the whole next week, I went into nightmares. I had one very specific nightmare after our breakup that was a nightly occurrence, to the point where when I was in my next serious relationship, God love that guy, I had a series of like night terrors where I would wake up screaming in a cold sweat because I had the same nightmare of what this guy was doing to me. And it was the same thing every single night. And this poor guy had no idea what to do with me,
Mm-hmm.
because I would wake up screaming out of this like nightmare from this trauma response. And he would try and like kind of talk me down. He's like, it was a dream. It wasn't real, go back to sleep. And I was like, that's not helpful. I was like, but I don't know what's going on in my own head for you to be helpful. And so, but that started again, like it had been years. And I was like, why am I now having this new same nightmare that went on for over a year after I got out of that relationship, which, by the way, that nightmare is literally him. I'm like in a black, like it's total blackout, and it's in like my perspective, and all of a sudden out of that it's just his face coming at me, choking me.
Mm.
And then I wake up screaming when he like reaches my throat.
Yeah.
And that was honestly, that was 10 months ago that happened. And which is one of the big things that put me into therapy, because I was like, why are we having this nightmare again?
Mm-hmm.
Why are we still back here? Because I was like, I thought you worked through that. And then seeing him, and then having also Tyler, my best friend, who is a mental health therapist, he was like, this is your body's trauma response, and this is your body's way of telling you that you're not healed yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that sucks, because I thought time healed all wounds. Guess what? It doesn't.
It doesn't.
It suppresses certain wounds, but if you don't heal yourself, if you don't go through the really terrible process, then your body's just going to chill until it's reminded
Mm-hmm.
of how it feels. So hard. And so, yeah, but all of that's in the back of my mind when I'm dating other people,
Mm-hmm.
because that guy was also an A-class person of like cheating on me. So it's just like, it's like that trust is always there.
Mm-hmm.
That insecurity is always there, but also that like, at any given point, I was like, is this guy going to just like completely like shatter my self-confidence and tell me that I'm like the most disgusting, horrible person he's ever met?
Right.
And then go cheat on me with like 12 other people at the same time. I don't know. Like it's hard, but this is why in 2020, I made a very big New Year's resolution to myself that we would have no bad dates in 2020. And then the pandemic, and they were like, we're going to help you.
We're going to help you out with 6 months of the year at the very least, more like 11.
This goal of having, because that's the other thing too. Like I went on a lot of bad dates. I went on a lot of like humorously bad dates. A lot of weird ones, a lot of duds, a lot of great dates. It's just never turned into a relationship. But it was like, but I was like, no more bad dates in 2020. And the universe was like, we'll give you a global pandemic. Please enjoy. So that
now you get just no dates in 2020.
No dates in 2020, and you have to sit at home and go to therapy and figure out all the ish in your own head before we let you go back into the world.
Yep. Well, that was a part of what I was like going to ask about too, is just like, do you feel like, obviously you had this very abusive, traumatic relationship, and that has carried on into, you know, how you see yourself, how you feel others might see you, and your romantic life. So do you feel like this time and this pause kind of, and like the time that you've spent in therapy and spent in quarantine kind of meditating and doing all that good stuff, do you feel like if we ever get out of the pandemic and we're allowed to hang out and do stuff with people again that are strangers, like, do you feel ready? Do you feel prepared to date?
Yeah, because I have a completely different goal and mindset in dating, which, try as I might, like has nothing to do with my body, which I never should have, right? But what I've learned about myself and where I really came to in therapy, and I have done so much research on this. Like, my therapist was helpful with this, and then I took my research a lot farther. Someone else is going to roll their eyes at this so hard, and I don't care because it's like a real thing. I really deeply believe in the concept of soulmates. We love soulmates. And I think what's hard about that, people roll their eyes because we have romanticized soulmates so much to think that it's like this rom-com, you meet your other half, and once you meet, everything's amazing, and you're never going to fight, and life is amazing, and you're just going to ride on a rainbow into your gold coin pot. That's not what soulmates are. Western philosophy dictates that soulmates is just someone that you have lived many, many lifetimes with, and now you've taken on a physical body in this lifetime. We can have many soulmates. You can have a sexual soulmate, you have friend soulmates, you have family soulmates. Oftentimes families, souls will travel in like family ponds. I believe really hard, like my mom and I are a set of soulmates. I think probably in other lifetimes we flipped, like who's the mom, who's the daughter. But it's just this really good recognition of someone that, like, you know, it's that feeling of like, you know, you've known this person for so long, even though it's been 20 minutes and that doesn't make any sense. Like, there's so much familiarity, and it's because your souls will recognize each other before your physical bodies will recognize each other. And my entire life, truly, like, I can remember being a little kid and yearning for my soulmate. I've always been yearning for, like, I've always been very aware that there's a very important person in my life, and they're just not here. Like, I've always felt very homesick for a person that I haven't been able to identify. Very quick correction to that. That's not to say that, like, Jerry Maguire, like, bull line of like, you complete me, you're my other half, because you're not half. Like, that insinuates that you're not a whole person.
You're whole in yourself,
on your own. Yeah. You're a whole person. It's just someone that, again, you have lived many lifetimes with. That just, like, you know them and you are comfortable with them, like a cut above the rest. I think that a lot of people, like, you can probably be in a long-term relationship with someone not your soulmate and be just as happy as a clam. But it's just, I've always have felt that yearning for someone that I've known is out there but missing from me. And I have really evaluated my life into just looking for that person, and understanding that person will eventually come. And I don't need to, like, run this little hamster wheel rat race of, like, going on 1,000 dates and just be like, are you the one? No. Are you the one? Like, I feel like I keep playing that game. Do you remember, like, I go to carnival with those ducks? They're, like, the numbers on them, and you keep picking them up, and you're like, is that? Like, that's how I feel with dating. I'm just like, are you the one? No. Are you it? No. Okay. Like, putting them back. And it's just been a lot more calm and understanding that, like, that person will come one day, like, this person that really, like, I have just lived these many lifetimes with, that I feel more comfortable with anyone else, that I can really tackle all of the dreams and the hopes for my entire life with. And that's the other thing too. Like, I've done a lot of, like, visualization techniques with my meditations. It's like, what do I want for, like, my whole life? What do I want my career to look like? What do I want my future home to look like? What goals am I setting for my next, like, 10, 20, 30, like, years? Like, what does my whole life look like? And is there a person out there that's going to support those dreams? And if I find him, absolutely wonderful. So great. If I don't, maybe it just was never meant to be that we were going to meet up in this lifetime. Maybe we were always meant to meet when we're, like, 50. I don't know. there's one theory about soulmate contracts that when your souls are in the afterlife, you literally decide when it's time for you to meet up. And maybe it's like you have to hit X, Y, and Z like milestones in your life. You have to go through X, Y, and Z experiences before you're able to meet each other, because maybe there's a lesson in a former life that you didn't learn. Because, and so you have to do that before you can meet each other. Like, there's all these theories about it that I think are really fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just has helped me stop worrying about it. But that really has curbed my loneliness, because it's not this like weird hollow feeling that like this human being just isn't here and that I'm alone. And also it's really shown me my biggest pet peeve in other people's relationships, which I feel like so many people settle. But also because it's like so many people are round pegs and square holes, but we're like, I'm just going to make you fit because I just don't want to be alone. And you're not actually that great. And you're not actually that like right, exact perfect partner for me, but I'm just going to make you fit. And I'm going to sink my claws in because I'm so terrified of being alone. I think embracing being alone, who you are, is going to be so much more powerful, because then you don't need someone else in your life. You want someone else and you can accept someone else. You don't need that other person. It's also really helped me stop thinking for every guy that I date. Like I told you, I went through a spiral of why am I not good enough for this guy to just date me? I'm amazing. Why aren't you dating me? And now it's like, okay, we're not the match. And that's cool. Now you go, so you make way for me, like meet these other people. It's just, I've shifted my head around it. Like, I'm not against the idea of like going on other dates. Actually, was just like, so fun to grab a glass of wine and sit down at the lake and just like hang out with someone.
Right.
Like, fantastic. But just in really understanding what my goal is, the form that's going to take, and just understanding like if someone doesn't work out, just wasn't the match, and that's okay. Because we're just one more step, we're one more frog kissing closer to, the end result.
For sure.
That was so long-winded. I heard like 14 people roll their eyes at my new theories.
No, I liked it.
No one else has to also agree with them. They're mine. Do not send me an angry DM that I'm like an idiot for believing in soulmates. I don't want to hear it. Okay. This is my world that I live in.
Right. And I think
if someone else wants to talk to me about soulmate theories, I have
one friend in mind that I feel like you would love to talk about that with him. I feel like he would get a kick out of that. He would enjoy that. But no, what you said about like needing someone and making someone fit, that is my biggest relationship flaw. And that's something that I've spent a lot of time thinking about in quarantine. And I was listening to another podcast, the Girls Gotta Eat podcast, for anyone that hasn't listened to it yet. Last time Susan and I were talking, I recommended it. And they were talking about, I said we, like I'm on the show. They were talking, I was like, I had this moment, I always listen to one episode as I'm getting ready for work. And they were discussing like, they were saying it in a negative way, and they weren't talking about anyone in particular, but they were like, do you know those girls that bounce from relationship to relationship and they have no hobbies and they have no friends because all they do is they date these guys? This was me like putting my fake eyelashes on in the mirror like, oh my God. I was like, literally my boyfriend who I live with is in the other room and I'm in my bathroom. I like shut the door and I was like, I have no hobbies outside of dating and Miss America. And I was like, I have spent so much of my life, like, the last ex-boyfriend. Yeah. And probably the one before that. Like, for those that, I have a very long laundry list of trash men that I've allowed in my life for years, way too long. And I was like, oh my gosh, I dated someone that cheated on me for 18 months. We were together for almost 3 years on and off. He cheated on me and had a child behind my back. Then I still you knew that, right?
I forgot about that one.
Yeah. I'll never forget me being like, I don't have trust issues to my current boyfriend. And then like he leaves for a week and I'm like, he's going to come back with a baby mama.
And I'm just not going to be okay. Yeah.
Literally. I'm like, oh, maybe I do. Maybe I need to work on that. Maybe I need to go back to therapy.
Maybe we need a little trustworthy working.
Yeah. But I like go from that guy. Then I was alone for like 3 months and couldn't take it anymore. Cause I was like, oh my gosh, because I have no hobbies. And instead of finding a hobby outside of like Miss America, like I would throw myself into a pageant and into a relationship. I don't know if anyone that's been in my life has noticed that, but like those are my two things. Like there's always like some boy and some pageant that I'm doing, like that I'm like getting into. And I just like, I'm spending a lot of time in quarantine. Like, I think that's a form of like being confident and loving yourself too. Is like, if I were, so say my boyfriend were to leave me tomorrow, he were to call me and be like, no, I'm not, like, we're not doing this anymore. I like literally made a list. I was like, who are the people that would like be there for me, and who, and like, what would I be able to like fall back on in terms of like filling up my time? And I was like, the people I know I have good friends. I know if I were to be like, hi, my live-in boyfriend's moving out, someone would be here with a moving van to help him get his ass out, like lickety split. But then I was like, what do I have to like fill my time? This podcast, and like, that's it. Right. I was like, holy crap, like I don't have hobbies. Like I feel this need to like fill this void with relationships. So now I'm trying to take the time and be like, what do I like to do? Like what?
Yeah. I think there's 3 people like that. So there's what you just described, which is like, you don't really have a hobby because you just keep bouncing from like relationship to relationship. Number 2 person is they view all of their worthiness in their life on if they have someone to love them or not, even if it's not like real love. You know, it's like, no, I have this boyfriend. Isn't it amazing? It's so great. Look at him. He's amazing. It's great. I love it. Everything's fine because like someone loves me. Yeah. And so if they don't have someone they're in a relationship with or they're seeing, they're so lost because like all of their values in that. Number 3 is the person who feels like within their friend group. And so my favorite podcast about dating is called the You Up podcast.
Yes, I've been listening.
Love it. And they talk about this all the time, where especially among like female friend groups, it's the like, you know, when there's one friend who like, okay, like if all the friends in the group are doing about the same thing, if you're not doing it, you feel left out. So if everyone's starting to get engaged and you're the one who feels like the loser because you're not engaged, and you look at your boyfriend, you're like, well, are we going to catch the train? Because if we don't catch this train with all my other friends, then it's like, you know, not going to, and it's like, you know, so then it's the wedding and then it's all of this. And you never actually take a moment to think like, but do I actually love you? Do I want to spend my life with you? Or do I just want to hit these milestones with all my friends so I don't feel left out and like a single loser? But I think that most people fall into one of those 3 things. And someone's going to hate me so much and like unfollow me and send me hate mail for this. And I don't care. I do this all the time. I look at so many people when they get married, especially, and I'm so sorry, but statistically speaking, the younger you are, I think this, I look at certain people get married and I evaluate couples on certain things. And I know that I don't, you know, Instagram is so different from your real life. There's so many things that I look at and I kind of make like a little silent bet. And I'm like, oh, this is not going to last. And I totally agree in my head. And I'm just like, how long? I was like, are they going to make this?
I think a lot of people do that. I do. And I like even hear, so like I was pointing at myself as Susan's talking about the person trying to hop on like the next stage in the relationship train. Because I feel like I don't talk about my relationship much on the podcast. He's very like, his name's Jeremiah. He's great. He's cute. But we have been together almost 2 years. And I have a friend I went with her. She knows it's coming, so I can talk about it. But I went with her soon-to-be fiance to a jeweler to pick out a ring. They've been together just over a year. And I do think they are soulmates. Like, I feel their love when I'm in the room with them. I love spending time with them because they love each other.
Beautiful.
Yes, they love each other so much. But I'm helping him pick out his engagement ring and whatever. And I came home and I was like, well, so-and-so's getting engaged. He's got the ring. He's got this. He's got it all figured out. I was like, we've been together longer. And Jeremiah is sitting on the bed. He's like, do you really want to marry me right now? He's like, you want me to propose to you right now? He's like, you're ready? He's like, okay. Because we both work at Olive Garden and we both are like in the middle of a pandemic and we have like no money. He's like, okay. And I just think like, I don't want to miss, and like living on social media and like working a lot on social media, I see all these people in my age group getting engaged, and like I'm going to weddings with my boyfriend. Everyone's like, you guys are next. So then we feel like, at least I feel that pressure to hop on that next train. And you know, once you get married, it's like, boom, where's kids? Boom, where's this? Like buy a house, do all this stuff. I'm like, I don't even want to hit the engagement because then it's like, you're going to ask me about kids?
Well, my other pet peeve with that is like, I feel like I see so many people who rush through all those stages so fast. And I'm like, okay, now you're 25 with 2 kids. And I'm like, and I don't mean this offensively, but it's like, what are you looking forward to next? You hit all the milestones in like a year. Like, you know, like what, like, you know, it's like, take your time, enjoy your life, enjoy yourself. Like, my God in heaven, enjoy yourself. Like, there's something I've been doing a lot in the last year, again, with therapy, and then the pandemic's really helped this, and this sounds so dumb. and it's like embarrassing. I have had to challenge myself, and I hate that this is a challenge. I love taking long walks. That's like especially in quarantine, that was like the big thing. But it's like I've got a morning one, and then I've got an evening one, and I have an afternoon one. And the challenge that it has taken myself to go on a walk without my phone. So that it's me with my own thoughts alone. I'm not saying that out of safety. I live in a very safe like neighborhood, like by myself with like no neighbors. So I'm just like, whatever. But the idea, because I always had a podcast on, I had music on, like something that I was always drowning out my own thoughts. And I was like, what would this look like if I did this, where I just had to sit and not be tempted with my phone? And sometimes I would scroll on Instagram while I was walking, and I was like, you dumb bitch. I was like, stop it. Like you are in nature. It is beautiful. There are lakes and there are bluffs. I was like, this is so beautiful. I was like, knock it off. And so I started doing, because it's just one of those things. Like, are you okay with what's happening in your own head? Like for a long period of time without putting on extra noise, extra music, extra like whatever. And I love podcasts. I'm not just a podcast. I have my own. Please listen to it. It's called Make an Impact. But like sometimes I have to sit there and be like, am I okay in my own silence right now? Can I listen to my own thoughts? And I hate that that's a challenge, but I think it's a big thing even on that like self-love, because self-love isn't like wearing a dress and doing a face mask. It's also like, do you like sitting with yourself by yourself right now?
That's what I have to work on. And like, I feel like I've talked about him a lot in this particular segment, but like like Jeremiah he just left. Like I took him to the airport and then I came and recorded with you, and we have been together almost 2 years, and we have spent, this will be like maybe 2 weeks cumulatively apart from each other. And so he was leaving and we were driving. He's like, oh, I'm going to miss you, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, but I'm sitting in our apartment, like by myself, like tomorrow I have off. I'm like, and I'm realizing that I'm over scheduling everything. I'm like, I need to do this and I need to see this person. I need to do this to keep myself occupied. I'm like, because I don't think it's that I don't like what's going on in my head. I don't even know what's going on up there, because I keep myself so preoccupied with like other people and being like social, or like having my head stuck up my boyfriend's butthole. It's like, I don't even know what's going on in my head. And so I texted him like right before recording. I was like, hey, have a great flight. Like I'm going to be kind of trying to like disconnect. And especially after quarantine, all we did was hang out with each other. I'm like, I don't even know like what I've got going on in my own head, or what I like, not to say I don't know who I am, but to an extent, I'm like, I don't even know who I am. Like,
yeah, but it's just like, are you comfy doing that? Even for, and here's the thing too, and like, it sounds, and I hate it because it sounds dumb, because you just want to be like, of course, put your phone down, obviously, duh. But it's so much harder than you think it. And again, to not have,
it gives me anxiety to even think about it. To like not,
start small.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not kidding. Like, do a minute of you sitting by yourself on that couch in pure silence. Set a timer. But be like 1 minute where no background noise is happening. No,
it gives me anxiety even thinking about it. TV on it while I'm like doing something, just to like have it on.
Oh, especially when I was living alone, because I was like, it would get creepy. So I'd always put like something on in the background just so I, and I started having to really challenge myself to just sit in my own time. And now I love it. Now it's sharing. And it's how I've gotten really great at like meditating and all these things, but I'm not kidding. Start with a minute, give yourself a timer and see, and then try and go. And I think the nice thing about a walk too is like, now you're like, it's like visually you're doing something, your body is doing something, but now you're also tuning into like, can you hear the birds chirp? Can you hear like the leaves? You know what I mean? It's like, and kind of getting more in tune to nature with that. It's going to be hard, but please do it.
Literally,
for at least, like,
I'm gonna text you when I do it. Literally, my plan was to do it tomorrow. It's so funny that the interview like went in this direction, because I was like, I need to do this, and it's something I've been thinking about a lot. So I was kind of glad when my boyfriend was leaving for vacation. I was like, I need to like sit down and like, I've been thinking a lot about one of my hobbies. I was talking to him about it for like 45 minutes. I feel like he was very bored with me. I was like, I think I want to like buy a camera and like get into photography and like start doing these things. I'm like, because when I sit down, and I said it in I think he got offended, because I was like, if you leave me and I go on another date and someone's like, what are your hobbies? I have none. I do pageants. That's it. I do pageants and I work. And I was just like, let's just think about that.
I just put this on my Instagram story last night, and I was making fun of myself because I I was trying to be funny because it was like 11:40 at night, and I was working on this like budget spreadsheet for Operation Alone, and I made this beautiful pie chart, and I was doing whatever, and it was like dating apps. What are your hobbies? And I was like, you can't answer making spreadsheets and color coded pie charts in my bed late at night by myself. Like, and then I was like, and then I put an asterisk really tiny. I was like, gets unmatched,
Literally,
because that's also not cute. You know what I mean? To be like, well. Yeah. Also, because I feel like people interpret it so many ways, and I'm like, well, I work on my nonprofit, and they're like, hey,
literally,
you can leave now, you know, because people interpret that 10 different ways, but it's like, it's hard. I think 2020 has had, and no one get at me for this, I'm not trying to minimize all of the terrible things that have happened in the world, the lives that have been lost, all these things, but for me, like, this has been a really big gift, and I've been searching for every silver lining that I can. And honestly, this has been one of them. And just the fact that, like, I haven't gone on a date since March, and that was like a one-time thing. And before that, it was like
March of
this year.
I was like pre-COVID, or like last year March?
It was like literally the week right before the stay-at-home order hit. And then before that date, it was like November, December.
Okay.
And that used to give me a lot of anxiety and a lot of loneliness and a lot of whatever. And now I haven't been on a date since March, and I'm like living my best life. And it's like great. But again, because my thing is just like, you know what? If my soulmate like walked into my life tomorrow, like I would be ready. And if he's not, I got a business to build. I've got a body I got to learn how to love. I've got a family I got to take care of, not like children, but like parents, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, by the way, she's also a single mom to 5.
Just kidding. It was very important. No, I've got 2 rescue kittens that I mother, but that's about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's, we're fine. So I don't know. I would really encourage anyone to do anything. Also try meditation. And I don't mean like sitting in silence. I would like do like a guided meditation. Is what I really love. Again, in therapy, I had a very holistic therapist. I love her. Like her therapist, like room even was amazing, because it was, there were no tables, no chairs, no nothing. It was like, all cushions and like fuzzy blankets and like fun pillows. And then she never had like the big lights on. It was all like, cause it was otherwise like fluorescent, like office gross lights. So it was all like, the Himalayan salt lamps and like really nice lighting, incense and essential oils and the music and like everything. And so she would sit on one side and I would sit on the other, and I would sit crisscross applesauce on the floor wrapped in a fuzzy blanket. We were like very
That's
holistic.
what I need.
But she taught me about like the 7 chakra zones and like how to also identify when one of your chakras is like really out of alignment or needs healing, and then to look up a meditation to help me with that. Like, you know, like, is it something fundamental about you? Like, is it your root chakra? And they're also attached to like super weird things. So something about like, your stomach is also like in that zone is like yellow. And that's like your empowerment, and also guilt, and also like, are you holding yourself back, and are you feeling shame? Like that's all that's all in your belly.
I did a lot of research on chakras when I was in college, and like after I had experienced some trauma, I like really spent a lot of time working on that. And I realized that like I always felt like tension in my throat, and that's one of the chakras. And I was like, wow. And like I wasn't in therapy, but I'd done a lot of independent research on like how to combat that and like meditations for that, and it did help. So I feel like I just need to like get back into that, just because I feel like my relationships, I do allow them to like become my entire life. And so as Jeremiah's like getting on and playing this weekend, I'm like, I'm gonna do some self work. I'm like, you're gonna come back, I'm gonna be a new woman.
And I never knew what a chakra was, but I definitely always thought it was like hokey, like garbage before. And now I'm like, I can never go back. I love it so much. And I just, it's so great. And, you know, especially like the throat chakra was the first thing that jumped out at me, because she was making me look at this chart, and I wish I knew the name of it to say it on here. But one of the things in your throat chakra, obviously that's like having your voice and speaking your truth and all that stuff. But one of them is a question. And the question is, when will it be my turn? Is held in your throat. And I was like, that sounds like the question I ask every day about everything. You know, I was like, to become Miss America, to find my soulmate, to run a multi-million-dollar business, to do all these things. Like, when is it happening? Like, when will it be my turn? And so clearing my throat chakra to clear that question away has been huge.
Yeah.
Also, if anyone ever wants to like DM me and reach out to me and talk to me about like soulmates and chakras and meditations and fun stuff,
I'm going to be
it.
DMing you.
Okay, but also
So-
like no one send me some weird hate that it's all like, because it's amazing and I love it.
My listeners would never. I know. So you have to do something else in 4 minutes. So I am going to stop recording. But Susan, thank you so much for giving me 2 hours of your life to talk about all this stuff.
Thank you for having me and like wanting me on to talk about this.
Always.
Because my podcast is all things nonprofits. I never talk about my real life. So I'm like,
I almost feel like that's what this episode does for me. It's like, it does relate to body image, but like, it's different. It's different content than what the people are used to. So we're switching it up for them. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode, and I will see you all next Monday.